Hi, it's Melissa Feick, and today is my mother's 90th birthday. And because it's her 90th birthday, and I wanted to honor her in some way, and the best way I thought was to give some wisdom that my mother shares with me. Um, so, all right, so one of the things she has said to me is that, I understand people get depressed. And she goes, I get depressed too. And I said, oh, really, Mom? And she goes, but you know what? When I'm depressed, I'm going to go inside. I'm going to take a few minutes and breathe. I'm going to listen to some music. And she said, and then I feel better. Sometimes I clean a little bit. It's a little bit harder for me to get around, Missy, but I try to do some cleaning and listen to some music, and I feel better. And I thought, wow, that's pretty wise of you, Mom. And what I realized is that too many of us get caught up in what we're used to experiencing, what we're used to feeling. And of course, you never want to bypass your feelings. I'm not talking about bypassing. What I'm talking about is taking time to look at how you feel, absolutely. But also, you don't have to be stuck with how you feel because there are neural pathways in the brain, and those neural pathways, they crevice through the same thing. So like a stream goes down and it keeps the same path every time it goes down the mountain, and that's because you are doing the same thing over and over and over again. So that's the same things with feelings. When it comes to feelings. Now, look, I'm a proponent of working on your feelings, working on your issues. I definitely believe in that. But you also have to say, wait a minute, am I a victim to how I feel? Or is there a different way I can try to look at this situation or not let all those thoughts create more feelings or create more thoughts and get dug into a deep hole? So let's go back to those neural pathways. So those neural pathways get creviced into our brain, right? So we do the same thing over and over and over again. And that's because we are conditioned, not from our family, not from anything else, but actually ourselves. We condition ourselves to keep going on the same path over and over and over again. And when we're doing that, we are stuck. And it's a lot easier in life to stay where you've always been. It's so much easier than dealing with your feelings, dealing with your issues. So back to my mom. Um, Many years ago, when my father passed, which was a long time ago, she was very angry at my father because he left her. In her mind, he left her. He left her alone. She didn't want to be alone. This is her, love of life. And one day we were driving in the car. I was driving, and she was going on and on about his brother. So my father's brother, my Uncle Paul. And when she went on and on about it, and she was very angry. And I said, Mom, you're angry at Uncle Paul, but really you're angry at Dad. And even though you're putting all that anger on Uncle Paul, you have to understand that he doesn't feel that anger toward him. It's only hurting you. It's only hurting you inside. And then many years later, I remember she said to me, yeah, when you told me that really made me pause and think about, like, why am I holding on to this anger? And it really helped her move through some of her grief and some other things in her life, I'm sure. But, my mom's rocks. So my mom is 90. She still lives alone. Now, my sister does take awesome care of her, meaning she brings her meals. She makes sure she has any medication or doctor's appointments because my sister lives by her. But my mom is one of those people who she always sees people for who they are. She doesn't, even though she'll see who they are, there's not a lot of judgment in my mom, which I loved about her. I remember years ago, she said to me, "Well, Missy, um, I understand that sometimes people uh, want to have relations with men or women, and I don't, if they're, love each other, what's the difference?" And I thought, now my mom is not of that generation. And I thought, yeah, that's my mom because she doesn't judge people. Now, look, I'm not saying my mom doesn't have her issues because, of course, we all have our issues. But she's willing to look at life and people in a certain way that gives her more connection with who she wants to be. So I think that my mom always appreciated people and always saw people for who they were and didn't judge them because that's who they were. And she cares about people. Now, my mom is also super insecure, which is not a bad thing. It just is what it is, right? So because my mom is so insecure, I got a lot of that insecurity myself. So it would be hard for me to put myself out there or to talk about things outside of normal realm. And I've been doing this work for so long. I've been in the spiritual world and spiritual community for, I don't know, over 20, 25 years. I've been studying spirituality. In college, I started working in astrology. I just love it. I just love it. But I would hide myself. And that's the other thing that we do is we get caught up in hiding ourselves because we don't want anybody to judge us. But really, who we're afraid of judgment from is our own self. We are afraid of not being the person that we think that we're supposed to be, that will give us more acceptance from those around us. So we're conditioned to want to be only one way. And my mom, if she could grow in her 70s, 80s, and now 90, I think anybody can grow and everybody can pass through or transcend those regular patterns or neural pathways that they have. We're not destitute. We are not destitute to only experience one thing in our lives. We're not destitute to always be depressed or sad or angry. And I think that if we take the time and go inside and really look at what's really going on. Now, really, an emotion is only about 60 to 90 seconds long in the chemical reaction. So, if we get a fight, flight, freeze, hide energy, so something happens and I startle and I'm a little afraid for the moment and I'm, like, ooh, do I run? Do I hide? That will last for just a couple seconds until we realize that we're safe. But what happens is that because of trauma, we will hold on to those things. And we will create all sorts of stories and things around that. And I think that we are at a place in our evolution that we're ready to look at life differently. So what I really want you to do today is, what do you want to see differently, perceive differently? I'm not saying change your emotions, change your story, or any of that. What do you want to perceive differently? So in other words, what inside of you do you want to look at differently or think about differently or let go of? Now, it doesn't have to be something you do forever and ever. I don't want you to think that that's what you have to do, but it is something just for today. Just take a moment and ask yourself. And it doesn't mean it has to be perfect. I think, ooh, there's a bee, which I'm not afraid of bees, but I have been stung. I didn't even put any essential oil on purposely because of the bees. Anyway, back to what I was saying before the little honeybee decided to grace us with her beautiful presence. I just take today and kind of look like, what am I holding on to? What story? And then the other part of this is that in life, stuff happens. So I'm going to go back to the story of my mom. My mom is 90, which means that she was born in 1920, which was during the Depression. 1930, I'm sorry. I can't even remember where my mother was born. Anyway, she experienced the Depression. And she remembers her mother bringing food to their neighbors. She lived in New York City. She remembers her mother bringing her neighbors food because they didn't have enough to eat. And although that happened, she was in a large family, other traumas happened to my mom. You could tell that these things happened because you knew she had issues. It's not that she didn't. But what I noticed about my mother was she was always trying to be a good person. So if somebody talked to her, even though she was so shy, she would smile and say yes. She was a great listener. She would give great advice. And when my mother talked, I listened because she didn't talk just all the time. It was when she felt she had something to say. And I think that's why I'm a good listener, because my mom was such a good listener. And, we all have our issues, but we're not victim to our issues. We're not a victim to that. We don't have to keep it or hold it. Our stories, our experiences, our traumas, our issues, our anger, our discontent, our sadness, our grief, we don't need to keep those. But, we can transcend them, but we don't want to bypass, right? So I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing, about being, oh yes, everything's perfect. I live in Sedona. There's Bell Rock. I'm not talking that, right? I'm not talking about that. Oh, there it is. There's courthouse. I'm probably doing it wrong. There we go. I'm not talking about bypassing. Who wants to bypass? I'm talking about being real with yourself. Like, yes, I'm going to be real with myself. Like, what is it? What's the depth of my issues? Now, look, you don't have to work on yourself. You don't have to change. That is not mandatory. But we're in a time and experience of ascension. And the ascension process is all about moving from one mind, the individual self, the egoic energy self, into one mind of many. So in that place, if we hold on to our anger, I can't connect heart to heart with somebody. If I am still stuck in my story, I can't connect heart to heart. And that is detrimental to our ascension. So I'm going to just leave you. Now, I gave you your homework or something fun to do today, right? But I'm going to leave you with this. The wisdom from my mom. Each and every person in this world is unique, and we honor each one. And I want to just say happy birthday to my mom. She's awesome, and I love her. And again, I'm Melissa Feick. Have a great day.